Good morning and welcome. I'm John Jones, Chairman of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the notice and public provisions of the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act. This meeting is an in-person meeting, open to the public for observation. It is also being live streamed and recorded for remote viewing. The time is 10:01 a.m. and I'm calling the December 9th, 2025 regular meeting of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority to order. Charity, please call the roll.
Mr. Will Bearing.
Here.
Mr. Todd Cohn.
Here.
Mr. David Madigan.
Here.
Mr. John Tidsworth.
Here.
Ms. Dana Weber.
Here.
Mr. John Jones.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started with the items on the agenda, I'd like my fellow board members, as well as those observing in person and online, to know that I have a scheduling conflict that has arisen in the form of a funeral that I need to attend outside of Oklahoma City this morning. And I may have to excuse myself from the meeting before it adjourns. In the event that I do leave the meeting early, Vice Chairman Will Berry will assume the duties of the chair for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you for your understanding. First items of business are recognitions and awards. Amanda Bolden.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to celebrate Rick Burgess and his retirement after 29 years of dedicated service to the OTA and the IT division. Rick's time at OTA began on December 30th in 1996. Rick started in IT as one of the original team members when IT was in its infancy. Through the years, Rick has been a vital part of IT, quickly resolving issues and always there when you need help. If you have an issue with a camera or a generator, Rick was your go-to person. There are times in IT, just like other groups, where some late nights might be required. When that happens, Rick was there in the trenches working to resolve the problem. Rick's wife Penny and daughter Bailey are here today. We appreciate your family's understanding and dedication during those times. Rick, your work has shaped the way we operate and standards we hold ourselves to. Your contributions have supported our team enormously. We congratulate you on your retirement and wish you nothing but the best in the years ahead. Help me celebrate Rick.
Our next recognition awards, Jeremy Smith.
Good morning, Chairman Jones and members of the board. I'd like to take a moment to recognize someone very special in our maintenance division, someone who has survived 42 years of Oklahoma weather, traffic, construction, and somehow all of us here at the OTA. That someone is Mike Collins. Mike started his career on the Will Rogers back on December 1st, 1983. As a maintenance worker one. I wasn't there on his first day, but I'd like to imagine that he showed up with a fresh haircut, and yes, he did have hair back then, brand new work boots, and absolutely no idea what kind of storms, literal and figurative, he was signing up for. He worked his way up. He became a supervisor 10 years later, then a maintenance superintendent in 1999. And this is a role that he didn't just simply occupy. He led operations on the Will Rogers for over 2 decades. If something happened on the Will Rogers, Mike knew about it before anyone else, usually because he was the one already out fixing it. Just to give you a sense of how things have changed during his career, in 1984, the Will Rogers Turnpike carried about 5.7 million vehicles annually. By the end of 2024, that number was over 16.5 million. So in those 42 years, traffic basically tripled, and Mike was there to watch every minute of it. For the last 4 years, Mike has been our Assistant Director of Maintenance. In that role, he has become the person that everyone calls when they need advice, when a situation gets messy, or when the weather decides to get creative. But Mike has always answered the phone. I'm pretty sure if we check phone records, we'd find that he has never let a call go to voicemail. Now, just to share a few things that really define Mike. First, he bleeds OTA green through and through. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if a little asphalt and concrete is running through his veins. Every decision he's made has been for the good of the OTA, for the good of our employees, and for the good of the people traveling our roads. The most important thing, he genuinely cares about people, sometimes to a fault. He's the kind of person who would give you the shirt off his back, the coat out of his truck, and the gloves from the toolbox. But you better give those gloves back because he knows exactly which pair is missing. Over the last few years especially, Mike has stepped into the role of mentor and coach, and not just for his team, but for me as well. I'm really going to miss his sincerity, his passion, keeping our roads safe, and the way he could turn any stressful situation into something manageable with just a few words. Sometimes those words were polite, sometimes they were a bit stern, but they always got the job done. And we can never in maintenance go without honoring those married to maintenance workers. And Mike brought his lovely wife, Sharon, today, because anyone in maintenance knows that we live a 24/7, 365 lifestyle. That means missed holidays, missed birthdays, missed dinners and anniversaries, and probably in Mike's case, probably a few too many cold plates left in the microwave. So Sharon, thank you for sharing him with us for all these years. He's all yours now. We will pray heavy for you. Yep. Mr. Chairman, with that, I would love to invite Mike to the podium. He'd like to share a few words with you.
Great, thank you.
42 years went by in a hurry. I want to thank the authority for a great job. Start at the bottom, work my way up. Anybody can do it. 24/7, that's a fact, but never missed a paycheck, never got laid off, and you can't ask for much more than that, especially in today's times. I want to thank Mark Kaka, the former director of maintenance, friend of mine, mentor. I wouldn't have this job without him, and it's been the best job that I've had for the Turnpike. I want to thank my wife for taking care of the home when I was out here taking care of everything else. And last, I want to thank the men and the women of the maintenance division that take care of our road every day, that make it look as good as it does. They've made my last 4 years easy and enjoyable, and I'm going to miss this place. But thank you all.
Thanks, Mike. On behalf of the board, congratulations to Rick and to Mike. Thank you. The board members have been provided a copy of the minutes of our meeting of November 4th, 2025. I ask for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended and the minutes have been approved from November 4th, 2025. Moving on to our items of business, the first items are the finance items. Mr. Todd Cohn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 4 items for consideration. The first is presented by Director E. Kelly, item 1330.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 1330 is the OTA regular meeting schedule for calendar year 2026. Submitted for consideration and approval of the authority is the attached notice of regular scheduled authority meetings for the calendar year of 2026. Staff has reviewed the above item and recommends approval.
Any questions? If not, Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of 1330 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1330. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended and item 1330 has been approved.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is 1331 to be presented by Mr. Jordan Purdue.
Good morning. The agenda item is for the $4 million transfer to ODOT, who then transfers the money to our trustee BOK for the Gilcrease Expressway. This is a standard payment we bring to the board every year. As a quick refresher, the $4 million is broken down between a $1 million minimum annual contribution and a $3 million contingent annual contribution, which depends on the performance and projections of the Gilcrease. Based off this, we are on track to drop down to the $1 million assistance payment in 2029. That's as early as it can be because our first debt service payment to the TIFIA loan is on July 1st, 2026. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? If there are none, Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of item 1331 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1331. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended and item 1331 has been approved.
Mr. Purdue, I understand you have an announcement to make.
Yes, thank you. When we closed on the TIFIA loan agreement back in 2020, part of that agreement was that we would increase tolls on the Gilcrease 3% every other year, beginning 1/1/24. We initially approached them in 2023 and asked for a delay in that initial toll increase to 1/1/26. We have since gone back to them this past year and requested an additional 1-year delay for that initial toll increase, and they granted that, and that is based off the performance of the project to date and our projections going forward. So we think that's a great thing. We're happy, and you know, the loan holder agreed to it, so it's all very positive on the Gilcrease.
That's great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Win-win.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is 1332 by Miss Nandy Taggart.
Good morning, Chairman Jones, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Submitted for consideration and approval of the authority is a request to authorize the purchase of 1,290,000 6C sticker transponder pike passes and 23,808 6C hard case transponder pike passes, all in accordance with the terms of the agreement between OTA and Newology approved by the board on October 25th, 2022. The amount for these purchases, including shipping, shall not exceed $1,160,879. As of November, we have a total of total active amount of 1,330,058 active Pike Pass accounts and 3,838,479 active transponders. As we continue to increase our Pike Pass accounts due to cashless, we anticipate that we will increase this volume moving forward. I'm happy to address any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Taggart?
No?
What, their original contract was from 2022. How many more extensions do they have? Or is
So-
this it?
So this contract is actually up in 2027. So my team and I will be reviewing the terms of this contract to discuss what actions we want to take after that.
Okay.
That's a good problem to have, needing more of these.
Absolutely, we're very excited with the progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of item 1332 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1332. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, I'm sorry, and item 1332 has been approved.
Mr. Chairman, final item is item 1333. Micah Gardner.
Good morning, Chairman Jones, members of the authority. Item number 1333 is the payment register prepared by the Comptroller Division. This register contains all payments made by the OTA for the month of October 2025. The staff has reviewed this item and it's recommended for approval.
Any questions? If there are none, then I would move for approval of item 1333 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1333. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1333 has been approved. Moving on to our next items in engineering and construction, Vice Chairman Wilberry.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. First item 1334, will be presented by Mr. Gardner.
Good morning, Chairman Jones, members of the board. Presented for consideration of the authority is a request that the following change orders be approved. There are 2 change orders, both of which are final quantity change orders to balance the contract items and adjustments for project closeout. This item has been reviewed by staff and is recommended for approval, and as always, be happy to answer any questions.
So on these, when you say they're the final, so that includes the incentives and everything. So basically, this one's complete.
Yeah, the final quantity change order is really an administrative process that we have to
Okay.
do within our software, so it balances out all existing items as well as previously change ordered items to 0 or 100%, depending on how it's funded. And just administratively, it makes it where the closeout process gets the money out of the project at the end of it.
Gotcha.
And it also, if there's general overruns by the time you get to the end of the project that you've identified, gives you the chance to ask for the funding for those.
Perfect. Any other questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve this item as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1334. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. Please vote appropriately. Voting's ended. Item 1334 has been approved.
Thank you. The next lot of items will be presented by Mr. Butler.
Yeah, keep an eye out for anybody that may fall asleep back there. I'd like a record of that list.
We might need to take a break.
You may have to exit in the middle of this.
There's a chance.
Well, thank you, Mr. Will. Barry, good morning to everybody. Good to see everyone. Engineering Division has 8 items. As we were mentioning, 8 items we'd like to present for consideration today, and that is items 1335 through 1342. Before I get to that, though, would like to make a quick a presentation or shout out to one of our project managers in the Engineering Division, and that's Ed Dierberg. He couldn't be with us today, but did want to recognize him in his retirement. Ed has almost 30 years of service with the state of Oklahoma, 19 years with the Department of Environmental Quality, almost 3 years with the Department of Transportation, and 8 years with the Turnpike Authority. More importantly, Mr. Dierberg has 4 years of service with the U.S. Army, kind of down in Mr. Love's neck of the woods there at Fort Sill. Ed's been a model employee for us. We're going to miss his engineering expertise. We're especially going to miss his witty humor around the office. So congratulations to Ed on his retirement and his 30 years of state service and 4 years of service to the United States. Appreciate you allowing me to do that, Mr. Chairman. With that, we'll get into the agenda items. The first item is item 1335. This is construction contract awards for 5 construction projects. Happy to report right off the bat here that we've got 5 good bids for these projects. I'll go through all 5 of these, present them, and then I'll make a recommendation for approval after the 5th project. First one here is JKT 30,702A. This is widening, this is an access bond program project. This is widening of the John Kilpatrick Turnpike from milepost 116.84 to milepost 120.48 from West Wilshire Boulevard extending north in the city of Oklahoma City and Canadian County. Project includes widening TPO Bridge number 118.87 over State Highway 3 Northwest Expressway. We had 6 bidders on this project. As you can see there, Do It Construction's our low bid in the amount of $23,025,230.85. And this is about 16.2% below the engineer's estimate. Any questions before we move to the second project? Okay. Second project's EWC 28103B. This is an access bond program project as well. This project's to drain and backfill an existing pond currently in the path of the proposed east-west connector turnpike. Project's located north of Indian Hills Road in Oklahoma City, just west of 48th Avenue Northwest, and this is in Cleveland County. As you can see there, we've got 7 bidders on the project. Low bidder Sherwood Construction, and the amount of $3,138,199.23. And this is about 51.1% under the engineer's estimate. I will tell you that the 7th, the high bid for the project was a little over $9.4 million. So we had quite a array and variety of bids on the project. This is an unusual project for us. We've definitely drained a few ponds over the years. This one has 6 surface acres in terms of area at the top of the pond. It's an average of about 25 feet deep and has approximately 25 million gallons of water that will need to be drained. And of course, once it's drained, they'll bring in rock and backfill to get that leveled back up to surface. Any questions about that one? Okay. Third project is EWC 28502A and EWC 28802A. These are 2 separate projects that we made the decision to mandatorily tie. This project includes 6,747 feet long twin parallel bridges, eastbound and westbound, over the Canadian River floodplain. 206 feet long twin parallel bridges, eastbound and westbound, over Pennsylvania Avenue, and 2,412 feet of mainline roadway, including earthwork, drainage, and paving. This project's located near the city of Newcastle and Oklahoma City in McLean County and Cleveland County. Had 6 bidders on this project. The low bidder was Crossland Construction Company, the amount of $96,936,614.88. And that is about 30.23% below the engineer's estimate. Any questions? Okay. Fourth project's HEB MC 65E. This is pavement rehabilitation, which is DBR, Dowball retrofit, and diamond grind from milepost 5.73 to milepost 20.09, and the interchange ramps at State Highway 36 in Cotton County and Comanche County. Had 4 bidders on the project. Low bidder was Interstate Improvements Incorporated, the amount of $11,491,376.05. This was about 15.8% under the engineer's estimate.
Hey, Darren.
Yes, sir.
I just noticing on some of these, can you explain real quick what the Part B bid is? Is that for more of a contingency type scenario?
Yeah, the
or-
Part B is really the time component of a bid. A would be more of your materials and labor, and then the B would be an opportunity to bid time. A lot of times we like to include the B portion when it's impacting traffic, and some of these are new alignment projects where you're not impacting traffic as much. We don't offer that B time, which is, I think, really more of a practice of ODOT, is they're primarily Part A. So a lot of times there'll be a Part A and a Part B, but when it's not necessary, we do see a Part A only.
So the pond draining doesn't need a Part B?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, new alignment, no traffic,
Right.
over
Gotcha.
there that we're impacting. Just the carp and gar impacting a little bit over there, yeah. Okay. Fifth project is CMC 38. This rehabilitation of TPO Bridge 19.74A near milepost 19.74A. This is in Payne County. Project includes partial replacement of deck, hydro demolition, and bridge deck overlay, raised median removal, approach slabs, bearings, substructure repairs, shoulder, and guardrail. Had 6 bidders on the project. Low bidder was PBX Corporation, the amount of $2,383,101.73, and this is about 14.6% below the engineer's estimate. Staff's reviewed all of these bids for the 5 projects, and we recommend approval.
Just to comment, Darren, it's really nice to see this significant group of bids all coming in below the estimates. We used to have that a lot, and then we went for a period where they were all over. So I'm really glad to see them coming in below again.
Yeah, obviously, the contractors, their bidding environment, how aggressive they get with their bids is kind of a function of how much work is out there. So we're in a good spot at this moment in time. At some point, we may see that swing the other way, but yeah, we're going to enjoy this while we can, certainly.
Darren, what was the percentage on the fourth contract awarded to Interstate?
Yeah, that was, I have that at 15.8% under.
I could do the math, but I figured you already had it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions? If not, I make a motion we approve item 1335 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1335. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, David. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1335 has been approved.
Next item is item 1336.
Yes,
Mr. Butler.
sir. Yes, sir. Item 1336. This is on-demand design contract modification for the Access Bond Program. This contract modifications provide compensation for additional engineering services for the respective Access Program projects. This change will increase the consultant's not-to-exceed contract amount to include certain contract milestones on select projects. Project milestones include planned stages of 30% completion, 60% completion, 90% completion, 100% PS&E, bidding phase, construction services, and projects included in this contract are as follows. You can see those listed there under the bullet points. This amount due under this contract Mod 4 shall not exceed $12 million for these services. The revised contract amounts are not to exceed of $34,392,774. About $3 million of this will go toward recent negotiations for the 2 there at the bottom of the list, the 2 South Extension projects. We've negotiated that design work through the first milestone, which is essentially conceptual or 30% plans. We've also got some work in here on the JKT 30,003. So the remainder of that $12 million will be utilized for future negotiations.
So we have a lot of these that we're going to be looking at today,
Yes, sir.
but how do you go about selecting the right engineering company for these? I know we have an on-demand with all of the 15 or 20 different companies, and I know it's probably historically, but how do you also know that they're doing their job right?
Yeah, these are companies in the Access Program that we have a long-standing history with most of them, and successful work on design work for us on projects of various magnitudes or various complexities. So the work was assigned. None of this work was assigned recently. This was all assigned back in the kind of towards the beginning of the Access Program. But yeah, those are it's an on-demand contract. There were 12 primes that were selected. They have, I think, around 55 subs that are working underneath them. So we negotiate there's 7 milestones for a given project. As I mentioned, M1 would be 30% plans. So for these types of projects with, such large scale to them, sometimes it makes sense just to negotiate M1 or 30%. And then you might negotiate M2, 3, and 4, through PS&E. And because some of these are way out there, 2030, 2031, 2032, we may not need to negotiate M5, 6, and 7 till later. So that's why there's, these kind of vary in terms of the task orders that we issue. We're negotiating different levels of these contracts at different times.
Do you put constraints on them to make sure that they're, in the construction side of it, they bid. They have a total dollar amount, so that's a lump sum.
Yeah.
But on these guys, it's more of it seems.
Yeah, that's not the case here.
Time and
Yeah.
milestones. So is that how you grade them, I guess, if they
Yeah.
achieve those at a certain time?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. And again, we try to distribute the work according to, consultants' capacity, and, talk with them about the schedule to make sure we can hit those identified schedules. But yeah, they all understand that they're being closely graded or watched. We've got a large QA, QC team. We've got a large oversight team. So, yeah.
Great.
Plenty of oversight there to make sure everyone's meeting schedules and doing quality work.
Perfect. Any more questions? If not, I'll make a motion that we approve item 1336 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve item 1336. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, David. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1336 has been approved.
Great. Next item is item 1337. Mr. Butler.
Yes, sir. Yeah, item 1337, this is another on-demand design contract mod for the Access Bond Program. This is for COW-12, which is Cowan Group. This mod, similar, again, next two items very similar to what we just looked at. This contract mods provide compensation for additional engineering services for the respective Access program projects. This change will increase the consultant's not to exceed contract amount to include certain contract milestones on select projects. Project milestones include plan stages of 30, 60, 90, 100% plans, bidding phase, construction services, and project completion documentation, including as-builts. Projects included in this contract, you can see there's 5 of those. Amount due under this contract modification number 4 shall not exceed $8 million for these engineering services. The revised contract amounts are not to exceed $16,489,377. About a little bit less than $1 million of this will be used towards recent negotiations on the two SET 27,004 and 27,005 projects. Again, getting our design work started on the South Extension, these are recent negotiations to conceptual or 30% plans in that M1 milestone. This consultant also has an interchange on the Cimarron Turnpike that we've recently negotiated a M1 study for a couple of different interchange alternatives. So the remainder of that $8 million will be utilized towards future negotiations for additional milestones. Staff's reviewed and we recommend approval.
Any questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve item 1337 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1337. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Please vote appropriately. Voting is, excuse me, the voting is ended, and item 1337 has been approved.
Next item is item 1338. Mr. Butler.
Yes, sir. Another on-demand design contract modifications for the Access Bond Program. This is with EST-07 with EST Incorporated. Again, the contract modifications provide compensation for additional engineering services for the respective Access Program projects. This change will increase the consultant's not to exceed contract amount to include these certain contract milestones on select projects. Project milestones include plan stages of 30, 60, 90, 100% PS&E plans, bidding phase, construction services, and project completion documentation, including as-built plans. You can see there's 7 projects included in this contract, and the amount due under this contract modification number 4 shall not exceed $9 million for these services. The revised contract amounts are not to exceed to $26,924,000 and $752. About $3.2 million of that will be utilized immediately for recent negotiations on several of these projects, and the remainder of that $9 million will be utilized for future milestone negotiations. Staff's reviewed this item. We recommend approval.
Any questions? If not, I'll make a motion we approve item 1338 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1338. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Please vote appropriately. Voting is ended, and item 1338 has been approved.
Next item is item 1339. Mr. Butler.
Yes, sir. Item 1339, this is contract modification for the Access Bond Program. This is project MUMC 54 with HNTB. This contract modifications provide compensation for Phase 2 design services. These services include engineering for bridge, roadway, traffic, hydraulics, environmental permitting, survey, and geotechnical studies for the reconstruction of TPO Bridge 32.2 over the Arkansas River and the approach roadway. Amount due under this contract modification number 1 shall not exceed $2,489,698.93 for these services. The revised contract amounts are not to exceed of $2,570,139.93. Phase 1 of this project was just a study. Sometimes when we have projects, we're not sure what direction we're going to go, we'll do a study to determine if we may do just a bridge rehab or a bridge replacement. In this case, we're going to do a bridge replacement. So that was the Phase 1. We're just modifying that contract to do the engineering work at this time. Staff's reviewed this and negotiated this and recommends approval.
Any questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve item 1339 as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion for approval of item 1339. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Weber. Please vote appropriately.
Safe travels.
The voting is ended, and item 1339 has been approved. Excuse me.
Next item is item 1340. Mr. Butler.
Yes, sir. Item 1340, this is a consulting engineer service contract. Submitted for approval of the board is a request to authorize the director to execute a contract for consulting engineering services with Olson. The contract will cover the period of 3 years from January 1st, 2026 through December 31st of 2028. This contract will also include 2 one-year options to be exercised at the authority's discretion. The contract will cover trust agreement requirements and meeting requirements of the authority at annual amounts for 2026 of $900,000, 2027 $922,500, and for 2028 of $948,125. If the other one-year extensions are extended at a later time, we'll negotiate that new number when we cross that bridge. The contract will provide for additional services only as requested and approved by the director. These services will be requested by task order and will be based on an approved fee schedule to be included in the contract. Staff's reviewed the above item. We recommend approval. Just a few other remarks. This is a continuation of a longstanding GC consulting engineer relationship with Olson. They've done a great job for us. Quite frankly, whenever we put the solicitation out, nobody had the guts to go up against them, I guess. They were the only one to put a letter of interest in for the solicitation, so they were not challenged on the position. We reviewed this item and recommend approval.
Are there any questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve item 1340 as presented. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote. The voting has ended, and item 1340 has passed. The next item is item 1341. Mr. Butler?
Yes, sir. Next couple of items are very similar. These are separate project agreements authorization. This is on the East-West Connector. This is for the Access Bond Program. Submitted for the consideration of the authorities, a request to authorize the director to negotiate separate project agreements with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation, City of Oklahoma City, City of Newcastle, City of Moore, and Cleveland County. These agreements will outline funding, design, construction, maintenance, right-of-way, and utility responsibilities for the Access Bond Program projects on the East-West Connector. Staff's reviewed this item. We recommend approval.
Any questions? If not, I make a motion we approve item 1341 as presented. Do we have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Weber. Please vote. Voting has ended, and item 1341 has passed. Next item is item 1342. Mr. Butler?
Yes, sir. 1342, again, similar item here, submitted for consideration of the authorities, a request to authorize the director to negotiate separate project agreements with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation and City of Oklahoma City. These agreements will outline funding, design, construction, maintenance, right-of-way, and utility responsibilities for Access Bond Program projects on the John Kilpatrick Turnpike. Staff's reviewed this item, and we recommend approval.
Any questions on item 1342? If not, I make a motion that we approve this item as presented. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, David. Please vote. Voting is ended, and item 1342 has passed. Thank you, Mr. Butler.
I feel like I need permission to leave.
You're excused. It just means we're getting ramped up. Congratulations. The next item is item 1343, which will be presented by Mr. Todd Gore.
Thank you. First item is 1343, is declare surplus property and authorize the director to sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the same. The following parcels consistent of the approximate acres at locations identified below were previously acquired by the authority. Parcel CR 423, roughly 2.45 acres on the Creek Turnpike in Tulsa County. A staff review of the property was conducted, and it has been determined that a portion of the described parcels and the parcel and the approximate acreage identified was acquired as unlimited and is not needed for any construction or maintenance needs of the Turnpike system. Based on that determination, the staff recommends the authority consider and vote to declare the attached described parcels surplus and authorize the director to obtain a survey, appraisal, sell, lease, or otherwise dispose of the property according with use and a land, including and use in a land swap to acquire other property as needed for the Turnpike system. And you can see their map, the location of it in the broken arrow area. With that, have any questions?
Are there any questions?
I do have one. Do we just get one appraisal, or do we get multiple appraisals?
We get one appraisal.
Okay.
We have an independent appraiser do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve item 1343 as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Please vote. Voting has ended, and item 1343 has passed. Next item and final item of the construction is item 1344. Mr. Gore.
Yes. Number 1344, consider adopt resolution of necessity for the condemnation of certain real property interest along various corridors. Submitted for the approval by the authority is an item to consider and adopt. The attached resolution of necessity for condemnation of certain rural property interest along the east-west connector and the Turner Turnpike. As you will see on Exhibit A, we have three properties. First property is on project EWC 28603A, parcels 1.1, 1.2, in Rivendell. This property is due to financial, we're not able to reach an agreement on this one. We're always continuing to negotiate with the landowners through this whole process. This does not mean we stop negotiating, but this kind of at an impasse, and so we're requesting that authority. The second parcel is Turner T26611A, parcel 13. And the third one is Turner, T26611A, 009. These two are for title issues. We're working with the landowners to try to get their documentation secure, but they are unable to find that documentation to clear the title to get through the closing company. And so that is why those two will be requesting to go to condemnation on that. I'd like to note on all three of these are all vacant properties, and so kind of makes note of that. With that, I am answering any questions.
So the title issues, we've come to an agreement on the price, but just have to clear it through title.
So for parcel 13, we have enough comfort that we are be able to finalize those numbers with them. But the other one, parcel number 9, we are not, there's not enough interest in the title commitment that we can secure in a title commit, a negotiation with that individual representing there.
And the ones you said were in an impasse, are we just too far apart, or has there not even been a counteroffer? What's the status of those negotiations?
On that one, we've been trying to get a counteroffer, and we have not been able to receive a counteroffer from them, and we've been working over the last month to try to get that, and we haven't been able to get that from them, so that's kind of where we're at the impasse. But again, we always keep trying to negotiate and secure this through the whole process.
Thank you.
Todd, what's the acreage on that one you just talked about?
Roughly 34.03 acres.
Are there any other questions? If not, I make a motion that we approve item 1344 as presented. Is there a second?
Second?
Please vote. Voting has ended, and item 1344 has passed. Thank you, Mr. Gore. That completes our construction and engineering division. We're down to the report section, and our first report will be from the Highway Patrol Department, Major Jeremy Allreed.
Acting Chairman and members of the board, good morning. I left my bottle of water somewhere, so if I start, looking parched and nervous and fretting, then you'll know what that's about. So, all right. So for the month of October, Turnpike troopers made 4,806 violator contacts. They assisted 917 motorists that were having issues out on the turnpikes, and investigated 169 motor vehicle collisions. Troopers worked a total of 983 shifts, averaging 215 miles per shift, for a total of just 211,000 miles driven. You can see there was one fatality reported on the turnpike system for the month, and one criminal interdiction reported. That fatality occurred, I believe, on the Indian Nations Turnpike. More specific information on commercial motor vehicle enforcement, aircraft traffic enforcement, and toll enforcement, motorcycle enforcement, and collision reduction has been included in the packet for your review. Have any questions?
Are there any questions? Thank you, Major.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
How's the thing coming along in the Bristow on the turnpike over there, Turner?
So we are planning on doing if you're referring to the massive amount of collisions that we seem to accumulate there, we are trying to do some special enforcement, especially around the holidays when the traffic starts to increase. We will have more special emphasis along that area. We did perform a aircraft assignment Friday. I'm still waiting for the details to come in on that, to where we did a kind of a saturation patrol in that area. So, but I will keep you all informed as we keep moving forward.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Our next report will be our consulting engineer report, Mr. Jimmy Sparks.
Good morning, Vice Chairman Berry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. Concerning the trust requirements, we'll be starting our 2026 report cycle in January for the next annual report, where I often mention that we're always reevaluating the reinvestment needs of the system. So, continuous cycle there. We'll also be completing our 2025 annual report to bondholders by the end of the year. In September, I think I reported that we had 52 bridges needing rehabilitation over the next 15 years. So with your approval today of contract CMC 38 on the Cimarron Turnpike, that will take one of those bridges, pardon me, off the list. This bridge had a deck rating of 5, which is as basically low as it can be. If it drops to a 4, it's deemed structurally deficient. So, we continue to see needs arise, but also continue to address those the highest priority. So, I think 17 of those bridges that were of the 52 are in the current 5-year plan. Another one, MUMC 54, that the engineering contract was approved for, is also on that list. That is as Darren mentioned, that's the Muskogee Bridge over the Arkansas River, one of our long ones that look forward to seeing the engineers report on that. In November, our engineers checked 42 special overloads for passage on turnpike bridges. That brings our total of those special overloads to 714 for the year. I'll report next month on or in January on the year end and kind of some numbers on that where we've seen a dramatic increase in those numbers. Our monthly report included a special inspection of an impact to a Will Rogers Turnpike Bridge, so we're nearing final plans of that, and those will be submitted over the next few weeks. I do want to thank the authority for their support of Olson in the renewal of the consulting engineers contract. We certainly look forward to continuing that role in our representation of the bondholders and the things that are required there. So, I make mention of the annual report most months and the inspections that are going on, and there's a lot of data there, and we want to continue to work with engineering and maintenance to make sure the data we inspect and collect is useful to them in a way that they can plan their capital reinvestments and maintenance functions through that. So our capital plan project summaries and our monthly report, and always happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Good report. Thank you, Mr. Sparks. Our next report is our trustee report. Will be presented by Mrs. Rachel Singleton.
Good morning, members of the authority, Director Kelly. As bond trustee to the authority, all monthly debt service transfers were made for the semi-annual payments due to the bondholders as required by the trust agreement. The semi-annual debt service reserve valuation have been provided to the authority and also required by the trust agreement to our knowledge. All other requirements set forth in the trust agreement have been satisfied. Questions of my report?
Any questions? Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next report is the operating report from Mrs. Wendy Smith.
Vice Chairman Berry, members of the authority, Director E. Kelly. You've all received your monthly operations report for October, prepared by the Comptroller Division. OTA continues to be in a strong financial position and in compliance with this trust indenture, as you saw from hearing a great report from BOK. Net toll revenues for October of 2025 came in at $44.3 million, and traffic came in about 1.5% as compared to last year. Commercial traffic is holding steady, and additionally, the year-to-date toll revenues are continuing to outpace budgeted projections by 8.5%. The OTA continues to maintain a conservative approach to spending. Collectively for the year, division managers held revenue fund operating expenses to 19.4% under the 2025 operating and maintenance budget, and the OTA continues to steadily achieve and exceed its trust-required senior and toll debt reserve ratios. One of those required ratios actually uses the motor fuel pass-through. And so I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. It is one of the ways that OTA and ODOT can work together, not only to benefit each other, but also for the good transportation in the state of Oklahoma. So in July of 1992, state law said that all motor fuel taxes apportioned to the authority shall be made available to fund debt service and reserves to the extent that that was necessary. In other words, if we didn't have enough funding available to make our debt service. And basically, that was just the legislature basically acknowledging that when a vehicle travels on a turnpike in Oklahoma, that vehicle has consumed gasoline upon which presumptively it has paid a tax. I don't usually talk like that, but that's like straight out of what was in the legislation. It is the traveling upon the turnpike that requires the purchase of the fuel, which ultimately results in the payment of the motor fuel tax. So each month, those taxes are apportioned to the authority, and once it is confirmed that those funds are not necessary to fund the monthly transfer to the debt service account, those taxes are paid over to ODOT. And if you look at the operations report, you can see that the first 10 monthly payments have been made to the debt service account. And by the end of the year, all 12 will be there, and we will make that debt service payment at the end of the year, or right after the beginning of the following year. So since July of 1992, the authority has received and immediately remitted to the Department of Transportation on a monthly basis all of the motor fuel excise taxes apportioned to the authority. These funds amounted to $1.3 billion through year-end 2024. This is a win-win for both agencies, as the authority receives the credit enhancement and investors love it. They see that we are well managed, but it's also good to just have that too. It's a credit enhancement for its bonds and the statute, but ultimately ODOT ends up with the cash from this tax apportionment to help fund its projects. For the month of October, the authority received and remitted $5,441,931 to ODOT, which makes the year-to-date transfer to ODOT $51,478,750. And I also wanted to point out, and I think it's important to note, that the authority has never been in default or been late on its debt payment in the 72-plus years since the Turner Turnpike opened to traffic. And that was a lot, so I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Great report. Thank you,
All right,
Wendy.
Thank you.
Our final report is from our director's report, Director E. Kelly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple things that I want to discuss today. One of them is something that we have done about every 2 years, since dating back to about 2005. This happens, we do it in conjunction with the Department of Transportation, and that is we do a market study analysis, basically compensation rate analysis for all of our employees by job class. So we've got a couple of slides to walk through. Director Gass went through these yesterday with Transportation Commission, and I just want to check the same box. The Department of Transportation, for the most part, the Turnpike Authority shares almost every job class is the same. We have a pretty significant call center that is unique to OTA. ODOT has lots of engineers, which is unique to the Department of Transportation. So if we'll go to the next slide, we'll take a look at just kind of the makeup currently of the Turnpike Authority. Very recently, the boomer generation on here has quit taking up so much of the pie chart. This has been happening both for the Department of Transportation and the Turnpike Authority, and really relates back to every state agency when there was a pretty significant freeze that occurred in the 90s, and state government was on a full-time employee count the goal was at reducing full-time employees. So there was a lag in the 90s where not a lot of hiring occurred, and so the boomer generation has been about 10 years ago. If you'd seen this, it was closer to half of the pie chart, and just here in recent time that there have been a significant number of retirements, just like we recognized earlier today. So the demographics of the Turnpike Authority are changing, just like other state agencies. I think if we go to the next slide, we can look at the number of years of service that we have at OTA. These are years of service for the Turnpike Authority. You'll notice that some are in OPERS and some are Pathfinder. If you're a OPERS employee, that means you're on the state retirement system, and those people, especially in those that have been here, less than 10 years, they are employees that maybe worked at another state agency for some number of years before that. OPERS, when was the switch? End of 2015? Did it go into effect like November 1? Yeah, November 1st, 2015. So if you hired the day after that, you were no longer part of the state retirement system, and it went through Pathfinder, which is more like a 401k. I think the next slide talks about the market study, and so this was codified in statute last year. And basically what this says is that state employees, you should, OMES should put together an annual program that analyzes current market data in all employment classes, and then that the state agency should pay 90% of that compensation of that rate that is established. And we go through lots of different things. Let's go to the next slide. Probably should have had that slide after this one. One of the things that we pay careful attention to is turnover rates. So on this graph, the red is the state total, so that's all state agencies. The green is voluntary turnover, so that's when somebody quits and takes another job. That takes out the people who have been terminated. And then the orange and blue are OTA totals and voluntary. So those are shown as a percentage, and you'll notice that starting about 2020, 2021, the Turnpike Authority has been above the state average in the number of, in the amount of turnover that we've had as an agency. And I could get into lots of detail about why that is and why there was a change that occurred back then. In particular, though, I would highlight that we've had quite a bit of turnover that occurs for us is in our maintenance division. You know, you hire on, you're working in heavy traffic, and that's just not something that's cut out for everybody. Not a job that everybody's cut for, I guess. And then the other place that we have significant turnover that we're continually trying to work on is in our call centers. And the number of employees that we have in our call centers have increased significantly since 2019. And we are routinely, multiple times a year, doing hiring classes and training classes on hiring call center employees. The next slide gets into a little bit of detail about some of the things that we take a look at. First and foremost is the OMES HCM study, the Human Capital Management Study, where they pull information from not only a national report, but also from neighboring states, which should weigh heavier on our region, like Arkansas, Colorado, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, and New Mexico. They pull information from the Oklahoma Hospital Association, and then pay factors, which includes the private market as well. For the OTA study in particular, we're looking at neighboring tolling entities. We take a hard look at the AASHTO salary survey, which is nationwide, but we use the specific part about Arkansas, Kansas, Texas, and Missouri. We use the U.S. Bureau Labor of Statistics, and then also the portion of pay factors, which included government and all industries in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, and Missouri. Let me see. So what I want to tell you about the market study, ODOT is relatively complete on theirs. They are still modifying just a few of the job classes numbers. They transfer that over to us since we only have a handful. And I want to say that Joni has been working with Don Sullivan. Joni Seymour, our deputy director, has been working with the Department of Transportation's deputy director, Don Sullivan. They've been the heads of this study. So they've first worked through all the DOT numbers because they have so many different classes of job family than we do. And then once that has been finalized, which we took a look at it probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it looked pretty darn good. And so then we take that finalized study from the DOT, which is an Excel sheet, and then work on the specific job classes that the Turnpike Authority has. That is currently still in process. We anticipate that that'll be complete over the course of the next few weeks. I don't have the numbers for OTA because, again, we're not complete, but the DOTs varied in compensation increase between 2.8% and 20% for a very select number of job classes. Ours is going to be similar and in line with that. Happy to try to answer any questions about the market study, the process that we're going through right now. Like I said, we do this every 2 years. This is not unfamiliar to us. This law that was put in place really captured something that we were already doing. So we're excited to get that done and behind us. The jobs, for anybody that's listening or anybody that's here, that should go into effect on January 1st, the first pay period going into the next year.
Joe, I have a question.
Yeah.
A lot of jobs, you want to look at not only industry and so forth, but region. But there are certain jobs that you really need to look at on a more national scale because they just are impacted differently. Is all that taken into account in these studies?
Yes, by a specific job. And we've had that has occurred even at OTA where, especially in the tolling side of the house, where we've got some, or in the executive part of our area, where somebody is being actively recruited for a job that is in another entire region of the country. There's not another place to use your tolling expertise necessarily here in Oklahoma. Plenty in Texas, Kansas. Other states are looking at tolling, so we're constantly paying attention to that. It's specific to the question that you just asked. Yeah. All right, I've got a couple of project updates. I know LaDan just did an update a month or two ago, but I've got a couple of things that I wanted to highlight because we've got a lot of construction projects that are making some active changes. So I want to highlight first the I-44, the Turner Turnpike at Wellston. So last week, the westbound lanes at Wellston Turnpike were put on the new alignment. And yesterday, the Turner Turnpike on the eastbound side was put on its new alignment. So those of you headed back toward Tulsa today will get to drive that new segment. It is still a construction zone. State Highway 66 underneath is going to open later this week, or at least that's our anticipation as of right now. I'm going to look at Jeff. And, this has been a major impact to the town of Wellston, to Lincoln County, to the residents that are right there. Especially for those of us that like to stop in and eat a little butcher stand barbecue on the way home, maybe on a Friday. This has been an impact, we know, to their business. We appreciate all the partnership that we've had with the local entities and really look forward to having this project complete. While the top side is mostly complete as far as paving goes, there are still going to be workers in the area. This image is very recent, and so we still got sod delay. There's still going to be some stuff going on the shoulders of the in this area of this project, and especially underneath. We do anticipate that once we get the artwork installed for the Route 66 portion underneath, that we're going to do a pretty significant ribbon cutting this coming spring. Still more details to come on that. Wellston, most people may not know this, but Wellston is very near the midpoint of Route 66 in Oklahoma. So when you come in up at Miami and when you go out by Elk City, the middle of Route 66 is right there in Wellston, Oklahoma. So we're going to try to highlight that with some of the artwork that's being worked on underneath the bridge. Another major project that's had a traffic shift is I-44, the Turner Turnpike at Bristow. Eastbound and westbound traffic have been shifted to the inside lanes as of this week, so we're on new pavement up there. That is great. That's the project that we were just talking about, some of the accidents that were occurring on the Turner Turnpike up there. This makes that much safer now with the wider pavement now open. Still lots of work to be done on that project, so there's still barrier wall. There's still need to obey the speed limit and reduce it, especially at night, especially when workers are present, especially when there's any kind of precipitation or cold weather that could affect the drive quality of the road. So still lots of stuff going on. The crews are going to be paving the new outside lanes now, putting in shoulder, adding the guardrail, finishing some of the bridge widenings, extending some of the boxes. Work is expected to be complete sometime this spring 2026. So we are months away from having 6 more miles of the Turner Turnpike open to 6 lanes. So very excited about that. And somebody asked me the other day, are we going to raise the speed limit? That is actually when we brought the plans to the Turnpike Authority Board to be approved. In those plans is the 80-mile-per-hour speed limit that will occur east of Bristow. So that will be a raised speed limit once that safer condition is met. As we wrap up a couple, we start another. So last month or a month before, we awarded a project on I-44, the Turner Turnpike, to do a bridge widening. So this is going to be just west of Wellston in Lincoln County. It's a $3.1 million project to widen a bridge in preparation of the future 6 lanes. So it's a very short project, both in duration and the amount of time it's going to take, and also in length. So it's not very long, but again, shouldn't have a lot of major traffic impacts. We're widening an existing bridge, but we'll need drivers to use additional care when driving through the narrowed work zone. We'll have some workers present. That'll be an aggressive project where we're going to try to get that done in calendar year 2026, so try to get off the road there. I appreciate the Turnpike Authority Board awarding a couple of projects today. One being the east-west connector, the river bridge over the South Canadian, just east of Newcastle, that will ultimately connect to Moore and Norman on the east side, connecting I-44 to I-35. This was a critical path project. That's why it came now and is early. It's the reason that the pond is not. It's not as critical path. We know we can get the pond drained, but this one in particular we know is going to start very soon, start sometime work in January, February. We'll begin to see some earthwork go on each end of the bridge. The contractor will begin doing work, it sounds like, near the river, and then work their way away from the river, trying to get out of where they don't have to deal with the water, obviously. So this particular project is going to start very soon. It will go until the very end. It'll probably be one of the very last things that is complete, and trying to get I-44 connected over to I-35. This will be the longest bridge in Oklahoma, at least for a little bit. ODOT's got some plans that are on the shelf for a project that'll have a longer bridge than this one. So at least for a little while, this will be the longest bridge in our state. It's the first segment. This project is actually, the design was to minimize impacts to the Canadian River to protect the water quality and the habitat of threatened species. The bridge piers will be constructed outside of the river channel, and OTA will monitor construction very closely to ensure the contractor complies with all the environmental safeguards. Works, like I said, is going to begin in early 2026, and it'll, like I also said, I think it'll be one of the last things done. Late in 2027, the bridge will complete and will be open in traffic between Newcastle and I-35. In addition to that particular project, and Darren talked about it, but the John Kilpatrick I-344 widening, which is another just over 3 miles of widening on the Kilpatrick Turnpike. I tell people all the time, the Kilpatrick is the fastest traffic-growing 4-lane divided highway in the state of Oklahoma, and it's held the record for 10 or 11 or 12 years. Most 4-lane divided roadways are growing at 1.5%, 2.5% to 2.5% growth every year. And the Kilpatrick, with the exception of COVID, has been growing somewhere between 8 and 12% a year. Been significant growth. Need to get this widening done, so I'm excited to have another 3 miles done. This will be between Wilshire and Northwest 122nd with a bridge widening over Northwest Expressway. Another project that's going to start next month or the month after and should complete in about a year and about 14 months. About 14 months total, not a year and 14 months. Last one I want to highlight is on the H.E. Bailey Turnpike. I know that former chairman, former board member, Mr. Love, this is one that he asked me about all the time. And it's one I hope he's online and still paying attention to today, because the board did award a project to fix the pavement on the south side of Lawton, the Turnpike Authority piece, which is from mile marker 5 up to mile marker 20, and the interchange ramps. This is a Dalbar retrofit and diamond grind project, but in addition to that, we're going to replace some panels where it's worse than a Dalbar retrofit can fix. So pretty major project, and I'm excited to have that one checked off the list. So I know Mr. Love would be proud that we got that one on there today. Jordan talked just a little bit about the Gilcrease toll increase being deferred. That is a huge deal. So as straightforward as I can make it, it is performing so well that we don't need to raise the tolls. Our goal is not, we can raise the tolls. our goal is not to raise tolls if we don't have to in our state. We try to keep tolls really low. Because the Gilcrease has to stand on its own 2 feet, the tolls there are higher than they are on any other toll road in our state. They're more similar to what you would have if you didn't have a cross-pledge network. So if we didn't have cross-pledging, we'd still have toll roads, but they would be tolled at a rate similar to the Gilcrease, much higher. We want to get that, keep that toll as low as we can because it is performing so well, because we've had so much traffic on it, and because we've had a great bondholder in TIFIA, that we've been able to work with them and ask and show them that the performance is good enough that we don't need to do the toll increase. So I really appreciate the work that Jordan has done, the work that Wendy has done to get us to a point where we can request this deferral again. We won't be able to do this forever. But at least in this case, we've been able to put it off for as long as we can. That's been delayed for a year, and really appreciate that on behalf of the TIFIA group. So usually this is where somebody asks me about the next phase of the Gilcrease, and still don't have any information to share on that. I will in just a couple of months. Okay, I feel like I've been up here as long as Darren. I don't want to do that. But we have hit some, we have hit a few things that I just have to talk about. One is that we have been now 1 full year of cashless. So in 1953, when we opened the Turner Turnpike, we started collecting coins and paper money. And in November of 2024, we stopped collecting coins and paper money, at least out in the lanes. That is a huge deal. For the first time, well, I know this is for the first time since email's been around, but for the first time ever, we didn't have a single toll collector that had to seek shelter in the middle of a bad tornado or a tornado warning all year. Didn't get a single email. Got them all the time, or not all the time, we got them every spring prior to that. First time we didn't have anybody slip or fall on the ice. First time that Jeremy and his maintenance crews didn't have to slow down and come to nearly a stop and make multiple passes through a toll plaza. This is something Jeremy and I talked about last week, about the efficiency that they have gained by not having to slow down and really work those toll plazas. First time that we haven't had a toll-related accident, crash, in a very long time. So major improvement. You know, we had a pretty significant accident in 2019 that Tim Gatz at the time, director and secretary, said, you got to figure out a way to go faster. Thankfully, Alan Freeman, David Mockamer, we put our heads together, took the 10-year plan and reduced it down to about 4 years, and got that all converted last year. It's one of the best safety improvements we've ever done. Cable barrier, treating snow and ice, 2 major safety improvements, but really a significant one that's prevented a lot of fender benders has been going cashless. And I thought I had a number that I don't want to say unless I see it, because I want to mess this up. But then we have the number of plate pay transactions, 22 million. So somehow I'm not seeing it, but we've, since November of last year, since December 1st of last year through December 1st of this year, we've had 22 million plate pay transactions. And to remind everybody, that sounds like an awful lot, but it is about 10% of our normal amount of traffic, our normal amount of transactions. We're going to be 82% Pike Pass, and 7.5%, at least for the month of October of this year, were interoperable transactions from other states. So pretty excited about the cashless conversion and getting that done, and the amount of safety improvements that have occurred. All right, well, just about my last thing. Inclement weather. So last week we kicked off the winter season, started having, seemed like every night, an opportunity for freezing fog, which is very difficult to treat. And every snowstorm is unique. They don't affect, the temperatures are different, the precipitation is different, the amount of it is different. It is something that Jeremy and his group work on, all the maintenance guys, and we have lots of maintenance guys that are in the room today, try to plan for, and they watch multiple weather outlets. We coordinate with the National Weather Service. In addition to that, we work with emergency management, ODOT. We do calls leading up to storms with the Health Department, the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, National Weather Service, Department of Public Safety, and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol to push winter weather preparedness. We've been doing these meetings leading up to these snowstorms, and most recently, just in the last couple of weeks, over 4 events between December 1st and December 6th, our guys worked about 2,000 man-hours, treated nearly 5,000 miles of roadway, put out over 10,000 gallons of mag chloride for pre-treatment, something, Mr. Titsworth, you took note of on the Indian Nation Turnpike last week. And we've also put out 216 tons of material, that's both sand and salt. So we're doing everything that we can to try to make the turnpikes as safe as we can, trying to minimize the amount of time that the roads get slick. That is going to happen. We can't heat the road up, and that'd be the only way to totally prevent it, right? So we really need drivers to take ownership in this process and do their fair share, which is reduce your speed, allow for some additional travel time. Don't get in a hurry when the weather conditions are bad. Please give our snow plows additional space. This happens sometimes. You're driving, the road seems like it's dry, or maybe the temperatures are such that it's not slick on the roadway. But coming up to a bridge, we'll kick on the salt and start throwing it out right at the bridge, and somebody will be tailgating right behind us. It's not good for your vehicle. We don't intend to do that. We're trying to treat a bridge, and so if everybody just give us a little extra space. Last year, this was a major impact. We didn't have a couple softballs to start off with. We had a pretty major snowstorm last year. I don't remember the date, but we were just a few hours into the snow and ice operation, and we had 4 of our trucks that had been impacted by somebody else that had taken them off the roadway. Well, if you have 100 trucks and 4 of them get taken out, you're down 4%, just like that. We can't make adjustments across the state in a hurry, so it really impacts our ability to treat the roadways. So if everybody just take their time, and as the roads get slick into the winter weather, and allow for some extra time. Always, of course, wear your seatbelt. Anytime that you're out driving, you can't control the other drivers. If you're interested in what the roads look like, and we use this ourselves, I mean, at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm checking my phone to check in with Jeremy, check in with the guys, check in with Trent, we're looking at the Drive Oklahoma mobile app to look at what traffic looks like. So you'll see that pulls data. Pulls data from cell phone movement, and so if cars come to a stop, it shows up as orange or red. If there's an accident, it shows up on this. They pull information from all over. Also highlights work zones that could be impactful to your drive. You can also visit www.okroads.org, or you can check out the snowplow cam on that website. With holiday travel quickly approaching, it's a good time to remind motorists to plan for additional travelers using Oklahoma's turnpike system. We're estimating that we'll have more than 10 million transactions system-wide for holiday travel between Christmas and New Year's. This is basically the highest travel time of the year. It spans multiple days, so it's not nearly as much of a peak as some of the shorter holiday times, but we're ready to receive 10 million transactions during that time period. In November, we also participated in a joint press conference to ask motorists, especially along the Turner Turnpike where we saw that uptick in crashes, to pay extra attention in work zones. We were proud to partner with the City of Bristow, City of Stroud, Town of Wellston, as well as OHP and ODOT to highlight the need for motorists to always remain alert, expect the unexpected by slowing down in work zones, to not follow too closely, and to give everyone, especially big trucks, some extra space. As always, motorists are safest when they're wearing their seatbelts. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, big report. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Thank you, Director E. Kelly. Our next item, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 6th, 2026 at 10 o'clock a.m. With that, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. Please vote. We are adjourned. Thank you.